Habitual.
Well, how you guys feeling 9:30? Are you kidding me? First service crushed you guys. How is everybody doing? All right, better. Hey, I'm excited to be with you guys today. My name is Jonathan. I serve as one of the pastors here at the church. And I'm telling you, we mean this when we say we are glad that you are here. Whether you are part of the family and this is your place every single Sunday, whether you are kicking the tires, maybe here for the very first time, or tuning in via technology, we really mean it. We love that you are here. And today we're going to bring this series to a close. And the big idea, maybe said in a different way, is we've been talking about uphill hopes and downhill habits. Most people, we start the new year with uphill hopes, but the reality is most of us have downhill habits. And I'm not like a huge New Year's resolution kind of guy, but we know the drill, right? And Craig talked to us about the fact that 80% of us that make New Year's resolutions by February, you will fail. So if you do the math, you got, days away from failure. So better luck next year with your brand new resolution. But it's true. This idea that uphill hopes, they're just not enough. We also need to improve our habits. Unfortunately, the reality is most of our habits, for many of us, they're actually downhill. We don't change the things that are really forming and shaping our lives. The great one, Aristotle, said that we are what we repeatedly do. So in other words, we form habits, and then those habits, in turn, form us. So praise God for your resolution. Praise God for your good intentions and your motivation out of the gate in a brand new year, but the reality is it ain't going to get your life changed. So for this entire series, we've been unpacking and challenging you to develop some habits so that you know what to do on Monday when you leave this place on Sunday. And in week 1, we answered the question, well, what do I have to do first? And we challenged you to develop the habit of putting God first in your morning, in your day, your week, your month, your year, and expecting God to bless all of the rest. In week 2, we celebrated the fact that your life has purpose. And to identify and pursue our purpose, we need to have some alignment habits. We have to identify and focus on the things that matter most and then eliminate the distractions. In week 3, we learned about the power of our thoughts. And if we're ever going to control our minds, we must form some habits that actually help us to control them, to shape them, and to push us in the direction of our dreams. And last week, if you missed that one, get on the website and watch it. Craig's teaching the parable of the Good Samaritan. The idea that we can have incredible faith. We can believe with all of our heart that Jesus is the Son of God, but if we don't love, if we can't express love, if we don't build this habit of loving those around us, then we miss the mark. We have nothing. And I love the way he phrased the answer to the question that Jesus asks all of us. Who is your neighbor? Yes. So that leads us to our final habit. And I believe it's a giant one. And honestly, I kind of feel like this is the practical side of the message from last week. And I'd even take that thought a little bit further and say that if you learn to build today's habit, it can actually push dominoes in the direction where you will be able to master all of the others. So here it is, our final habit, number 5, choose relationships carefully. We've got to develop the habit of choosing the right relationships. Think about your life for a minute, right? You are most likely where you are because of the people who've been in your life, good or bad. Now, some of these people we choose, But then we also kind of inherit relationships. But it's true that we are, in fact, the sum of our relationships. And I want you to catch this right out of the gate, because this is the idea that we're really going to build on for the rest of our time today. Your relationship decisions are the most important decisions that you're ever going to make in your life. The decisions that you make regarding relationships are more important than any other decision you'll make. We can illustrate this by replaying a movie in our mind. Right now, if you're replaying that film, you could go back in time and you could go to specific people, specific moments, specific experiences where people have thrust you forward. They have propelled you, encouraged you, challenged you, supported you. But the inverse is also true. Some of you, in your movie of your mind, you see relationships that hurt you, that wronged you, that disappointed, that frustrated you, and pulled you back. I'm not super old, but I believe the old adage we tell the kids all the time is so very true. You show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me your relationships, and I'll show you your future. Relationships impact and form our lives more than we realize. Look what the Bible says in Proverbs 27. A mirror reflects a man's face. Insert Snapchat, social media. What does my life look like here? But what he is really like is shown by the kinds of friends he what? Chooses. I love it when the Bible does this. It messes with me because words like choose and choice, it lets me know there's a process. And I get to be intentional. And I don't know about you, but I know that time in my life where I am super focused on finding the most meaningful relationship. I know when that time in my life was where I was hypersensitive to everything relationally that was happening around me. It's when you think you have found the one. Or some of you heard the audible voice of God. Yes, you are to marry, insert name here. But I was no different. In 2002, I was sitting in an education classroom at Evangel University, and I was absolutely captivated with Tanya. I'd never met her before, but everything she said was gold, and she had this aura of cuteness around her. It was like the movies with the fan and the hair. I knew I had to get to know this gal. So obviously, I plotted my course very carefully. And one day, I found myself back in that class, and I was ready to take action. Now, I'm not proud of the way this went down, but it seemed like a brilliant decision at the time. So I reached into my backpack, and I pull out a handful of orange-flavored Cream Savers candy. I don't even know if they make these anymore. But at the time, I loved them and I was obsessed with them. So I make this brilliant choice that she's over there, I'm over here, and I'm gonna initiate this meaningful relationship. And I just reach out and I'm like, whoop, and I throw the candies at her. And they they hit her and it lands on her desk. And she turns around and it's just the glowing aura and she's smiling. So I know I'm winning. And I'm just like, what's up? What's up? And then if I wasn't effective enough with the candies, I told her my AOL screen name. This was before, it's the old school dial-up internet that makes the weird noise. And I was like, yo, you just K2 Funk, hit me up after class. I mean, that's a terrible way to initiate a relationship, and you're laughing, but guess what? I won because I married her. And she's awesome. She's amazing. But what happens is somewhere along the line, we lose that habit. We lose the intentionality. We lose this idea that my relationships, I always need to navigate them with care. And somehow we end up in the relational abyss. And we spend our lives sometimes alone, waiting for the relational fairy to somehow like sprinkle the dust so I can find meaningful connections, or so that the fairy can miraculously restore the things that are broken in my life. It doesn't happen. So how do we actually choose the right relationships? Not just when we're googly-eyed and acting on our emotions or feelings, but how do we live our life in a way where we have confidence in the choices that we're making, knowing that I've included my neighbor, and I'm allowing those relational decisions to shape me, to propel my relationship with God and shape those around us. Well, the good news is you can do it. And today I want to share two sides of that relationship coin. The first is a little bit of a language lesson, 4 verbs that I think will help you evaluate some relational decisions that you may need to make. And then I want to challenge all of us to take a next step. So here's the first one, the first choice that we need to make, and it's to nurture my important relationships. And truth is, all of us have these. I hope you do. It's God, maybe a spouse, a significant other, the people, our inner circle that are closest to us. But it's important for us to recognize that those meaningful relationships aren't in the condition they are in just because we think they are good or bad. I illustrate that with a guy who approaches me and says, "Jono, I don't get it. My marriage it's not what it used to be. I mean, dude, the fire's gone. There's no passion. The flame went out." Or it's the best friend relationship that I just don't understand what happened. We used to be so close, and I guess just careers and family and kids, right? Isn't that what happens? It's not the fireplace's fault. It's not the marriage's fault that the flame went out. We've got a nurturing problem. The problem is I haven't invested and taken care of that relationship. Because relationships take work. And just because your relationship takes work, it doesn't mean that it's bad. I'm telling you, Tanya is an absolute angel. Now, that's her language, not mine. But the truth is, man, I'm telling you, I have it on easy street with her. I've got it made. I really do. She is a fantastic wife, a great mom. She loves this church and your kids more than I can't even express. But when it comes to nurturing the relationship and the personality and the needs each of us have, I'm telling you, we could be the poster marriage for opposite attracts. We could not be more unlike one another. For me, if I come home, I feel nurtured, I feel valued, I feel complete when we've got a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, and like the house is just a complete disaster. Legos and Nintendo Switch stuff and video, it's a wreck. So when I come home and things are put away and the kitchen is kind of tidy up, and Lord, if the laundry is put away, I'm telling you, I am in hog heaven. It's gonna be a good night tonight. But it's completely opposite for Tanya. Because I'm telling you, we could literally be around people all day. We could have hung out with people from sunup to sundown, and I get home, we get on the couch, and I'm ready to just binge watch my favorite show on Netflix, and she'll turn to me and say, "So, are you gonna talk? What do you want to talk about? You want to have a conversation?" I'm just like, "What? More? We just spent 19 hours with people, and you want to talk more?" And those of you that know Tanya, you know that that's at like a very high volume level. Like that conversation takes place really loud. But even though we're different, we love one another. And for us, that's a meaningful relationship. So we work at it. And even though it's hard and we're different, we value that. And we know that if we're going to preserve it, we have to nurture it. And maybe for you, it's time to just stop blaming the fireplace because the flame's out. Maybe it's time to stop blaming the relationship because the distance is far now. Maybe you need to actually get a few logs and place them in the fireplace. Get it burning. Maybe you need to go old school Royal Ranger. Some of you know what that is, AKA Boy Scout wannabe. Get down and get your A-frame fire going. You know, the tinder, the kindling, a little newspaper, that fuzzy stuff. I don't even know what it is, but it catches fire real good. And just get the flame going. How about starting with a box of matches and just getting a spark? You've got to nurture it. Whatever you do, get out. Go somewhere. Quit the rat race on Saturday of basketball and baseball. I got to go here. I got to keep up with the Jones and do all this, man, and shut it down. As a family, we colored together yesterday morning. What does it take for you to nurture the relationships that matter most to you? 1 Peter 4:7-8. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. And above all, you want to know how you nurture? You want to know how you take care of a meaningful relationship? You love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Man, that's my prayer for my marriage every day. I screw it up a lot, but I continue to pray, God, just help me to love. And that's my prayer for you, your marriage, your relationship. That's my prayer for our church, that no matter what, we would be intentional in preserving the relationships and the things that matter most to us. That when it's hard and we disagree, that I don't feel like this becomes a right and wrong, that I have to choose sides. And when I do disagree, I don't just go to social media and throw everything up there only to regret it later. What does it look like to hit the pause button and pray and allow love and God to nurture the relationships that are important to us? I promise He will bring it back. And here's the second choice that we need to make. It's to restore my broken relationships. Man, I get this one, that this is a painful place. It's filled with hurt, and sometimes it takes a long time to get there. And I know that sometimes you're not even able to restore a relationship because the person on the other side is completely unwilling to even play ball with you. But there's hope. Look at what the verse says in Colossians. What a powerful reminder of what Jesus has first done for us. Bear with each other. Forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And I would never, hear my heart, I would never minimize your pain. I would never minimize the heart that can be hurt and broken. But when I think about that verse, the part of that verse, it seems kind of elementary, the principle. The book of Romans talks about it this way and says that while I was a sinner, while I was at my worst, my farthest, my darkest, most distant place from God, and I've been there, He stepped in and through grace forgives me. And I don't know about you, but man, I need that every single day. So I pray daily for forgiveness. Why? Because I don't deserve the first forgiveness that Jesus modeled to me. And when I begin to think of forgiveness this way, when I begin to view relational restoration that way, it creates this alignment. It creates this habit where I'm not focused on getting the upper hand to bring things back to life. I'm not focused on whether I'm right or wrong, even if I think I'm right. I'm focused on Jesus. And through that, I'm able to have peace. I'm able to extend forgiveness, even if I end up in second place. Here's the third choice This one's the doozy. So buckle up, here we go. And it's to sever harmful relationships. Or at the very least, you've got to work to redefine them. Now, hear me here, because I'm not talking about going home and packing the bags of your spouse. Well, you heard Jono, he just sent, like, there they are, get to go. No, please don't do that or send me any emails. I'm talking about relationships that you've allowed in your life that you know are not good for you. Proverbs says it this way: he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Now, it's important to know I'm not segregating Christians and non-Christians here. Okay, I'm not saying you could only have Christian friends and the only meaningful relationships you can have are with other followers of Christ. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm hoping you grasp is that if you are in a relationship that prevents you from doing God's will and walking in the specific purpose that he has planned for your life, you've got to sever it. Or you have to work hard to communicate and redefine it. Because I'm telling you that you can be a light to the lost. You need to. You can engage the mess of people who are far from God. You could spend time with those people. You need to serve those people, love those people, welcome those people, invite them here into this place. Be a person on a mission. But I'm telling you, the second that you let those people rob your God-given potential, your God-given and unique ability to live a life that makes a difference, you are in relational trouble, friend. You've got to sever it, or you've got to work hard to redefine it. Here's the last thought before we shift to the next step. These two are kind of connected, so keep tracking with me here. The last choice that you need to make is the good one, to initiate some meaningful relationships. This is the happy one, right? Because if you're like me, the other ones are the gut punch. They're the ones that require a little bit of work. But the truth is, most of us, we want this, right? We want meaningful relationships, but for whatever reason, our stories are all different. We don't take that next step. Maybe we're too scared. The church doesn't need me. I'll just continue to try and figure it out on my own. I'll just hope that someday the friend circle just finds me and I'll just float. It's why we've been encouraging you to build the habits. It's not easy. We're not saying that it is, but with Jesus, it's doable. This verse in Hebrews, it wrecked me this week. Honestly, it did. And it says, let us not give up meeting together. Don't give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. But let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. The first part of this verse, it's very easy for us to misunderstand it. It's easy to read that verse and just say, yep, he's talking about going to church. Oh, we got to check that box. Never miss church. Hebrews, got it. Good, moving on. I don't think that's what he's trying to express. I don't think that is what he's wanting us to see. I think the hidden message there is that we actually grow closer together. And he's telling us that we need to figure out ways to encourage one another, to nurture one another. He's wanting us to figure out ways to initiate meaningful relationships. Why? So that we could grow in Christ, so that we can include our neighbor, so we can love one another. Why? Because the end is going to happen, folks. And man, I don't want anyone to be forgotten. No one to be forsaken. No one to miss out on the opportunity to have a meaningful relationship. And this isn't cliche. I want you to hear my heart. the best way for you to initiate those relationships is to get in a small group. I get it. Every church has small groups. They exist here. I'm the small groups pastor. No one loves to talk about small groups and discipleship more than me. This is the sword of ministry I want to die on. But I want to just cast for you the truth that I think is an umbrella that covers this entire series. And it's the fact that you will never be able to go all in with God if you're unwilling to go all in with people. It's messy. It's scary. It's out of my comfort zone. But it's a life of faith, of purpose, and mission. And honestly, I believe much of the Christian faith, this whole idea of having faith, is based on imitating other Christians, as imperfect as we are. I mean, isn't that what this is all about? Becoming more like Jesus? Looking at the life of Jesus, studying him, and in turn saying, God, help me to build character like you. Help me to love like you. Help me to walk in the calling and the purpose that you have for me. It's twofold. We do that in an authentic way, in a real way, in a way where I can be me, not in this, I gotta check all the boxes, fake and phony way, but in an iron sharpens iron kind of way. I'll speak to those in groups for just a minute, man. Small group leaders, I'm telling you, you guys are the hero makers. And I celebrate you. And I encourage you. Man, if you're in a group, if you lead a group, keep welcoming. Keep inviting. Keep multiplying your group. Why? So that no one is forgotten. No one is forsaken. I share one last verse as we close. And I love the Message translation here. It's Jesus speaking in John 10. He says, the thief is only there to steal and kill and destroy. I came so that they can have a real and eternal life. More and better life than they ever dreamed of. I don't know about you, but I'm choosing the latter of those two statements. And the final question that presents itself as we evaluate our current habits, as we think about implementing new ones, is this question that we've got to ask ourselves. Am I willing to go in, all in, on God and people? To move past the 80% of January, the doldrums of the New Year's resolution, sweep it out of the way. What is it like to just say, God, I'm all in? And it's not just this. It's God, it's you, and it's this. It's others. It's people. What would it look like 2019 if this group alone pursued Jesus and other people with reckless abandon? I'm telling you, you better watch out what God would do. What impact would that have on your marriage, on your friends, on your family, your own small group? How could your life be different if this was the year that you said, you know what? Forget the resolution, man, I'm all in. A couple of weeks ago, we had baptisms. I got a picture of Vicky, and she's absolutely one of my favorite people to see on Sunday mornings now. Because, man, I'm telling you, this gal is all in for God and people. And I'm so glad that I got to know Vicky just a little bit. And I think the coolest part of seeing Vicky go all in is that she honored that decision even when it was hard. And I remember speaking with her in the growth track and hearing a bit of her story. How she was stepping out serving people in a season who were experiencing sadness and difficulty, and they had no idea how to navigate it. Man, Vicky was committed to just love on God, to nurture that relationship and invest in people, meet them where they're at. And man, I see her now on Sunday and she's like high five, giving her hugs. I mean, Vicky is the encouragement and inspiration to me. I just love it. And that's the kind of person I want to do church with. That's the kind of person I want to do ministry with. But it starts with the question. We've got to reflect. We got to look at our own hearts. We have to ask the question, God, am I willing to do this all in for you? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you have to answer yes to the second question. Am I willing to go all in with people? It's my hope and my prayer for you today. Let's pray. God, I just thank you for the model that you've shown us. The model of relationships, love for others, forgiveness, nurturing. God, you've modeled it for us. You're not asking us to do anything that you haven't done first. And maybe you're here and you've just been on the fringe of relationships. Maybe you've been just floating in the abyss, just waiting. God, I just pray that you would press into our hearts the right group, the right people. Help give us the boldness, the courage to take that step, even if we have no idea what's in store. God, I pray you would just love on us. You would help us to nurture and care for relationships. God, that we would have the faith to do life with others, even if it's messy and I don't have it figured out. God, would you just press that into our hearts? And secondly, maybe you're here and today is just the day for you. You're saying, you know what? I'm going to draw the line in the sand. I tried the resolutions. I've tried to figure this out on my own, but man, today I just recognize that the first meaningful relationship I need to engage with is with Jesus. I'm not going to call you forward. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand. I just want you to say something in your heart, in your spirit, but I want you to mean it. And it's simple, but God will honor it. I want you to just say, God, I'm all in. Lord, I'm all in. From this moment forward, would you just create the roadmap for me? Would you just stay one step ahead of me, God, and I'm going to follow you. God, I'm all in, and today I make that decision for you. God, I just pray that we would be the church that loves you. God, that we would be the church that puts others first. I pray that you would honor our hearts, honor our abilities and talents and gifts, and let us know they're not just for us. They're for you. They're for others. God, make that our hope. Make that our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, can we celebrate relationships, what God is doing? Can we put our hands together for those that made a decision for God?